Have you ever thought about how you are your ancestors' wildest dreams? Because that's something that I think about quite often, especially when I get into a place where I'm starting to feel a little bit ungrateful or maybe just not as motivated in life as I would like to be. Um, it's easy, right, to get comfortable and start taking things for granted and not realize how much it is that we've been blessed with, especially because of the sacrifice of those who have come before us in our lineage, especially of us who are women, especially of us who are women of color, people of color, um, but in general, all of us somewhere along the lines have had someone sacrifice something, blood was spilled, tears were shed, lives were lost so that we could exist in this timeline. And I don't think that's something we think about nearly enough, right? I can be pretty ungrateful. I can get pretty stuck in my ways. I can be pretty stubborn. I can get pretty complacent, and I have to really stop and look around and think, man, if I was born even just a few mothers ago, into my timeline, my life would be so different. I'd have so much less. And sure, we could argue that, other things would be better, maybe like more simple. That's something I hear quite often, my comparison to now with technology and all things, right? We could play devil's advocate, but the fact of the matter is, we show up in this world today and we have access to things. We have, the ability to be able to show up in the world, the right to be able to take up space in the world, right? That our ancestors never did. And I think I try and think about that when I start getting a little bit kind of stuck in my ways or in a rut, if you will, because there really was so much that was lost to make way for me and you, and I'm sure some of us are not far removed from that, right? There are people who are still alive in our lives today who talk about the things that they didn't have access to, right? The things that they had lost, the times that they grew up in, all their struggle, all their hardship. And when they look upon us and we have the opportunities to do things that they never could, that they never dreamed possible. We have access and we do things every day that they never dreamed possible. We have the whole world at our fingertips, my God. And still we complain, right? And I say that just as much to you as I'm saying to myself, right? Especially when it comes to relationships. And listen, my love, I know that this is probably a conversation that is going to be hard, but that's what we do here because I love you, right? Love is accountability. And when we talk about relationships, right? Because I've been there, I want to let you know that there was a point in time when one of your ancestors, especially if you're a woman, didn't have the ability to leave or to choose differently. And so many times we come at that specifically, leaving love, letting things die, having a death and a rebirth in regards to love and romantic relationships. We look at those things as I have to do this, or this is happening to me. I can't believe this is happening to me. Instead of, you know, this is happening for me. What is this trying to teach me? Right. And I get to start over, right? Because we get to. That is such a privilege. That is such a beautiful thing that we get to start over. There was a time not too long ago when there was someone in your lineage who didn't have the opportunity to start over. They didn't get to start over the way that we do, right? And we do. And that is something worth remembering for their sacrifice. And again, really being in a place where it's like when you are in your faith, when you're rooted in the fact that you're highly favored, that you're blessed, that you are divinely guided and gifted, all the things, right? And guarded, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. Always, full stop. I believe that. And when you're so rooted in your faith that way that you really believe that rejection is protection, you really believe that that redirection is keeping you safe, right? that's a wonderful place to be anchored in and to be rooted in, right? And so often we stray away from that because we get caught up in what we want right now, with the convenience of things, or, just trying to consume as much as we can. We are so stuck trying to give ourselves these pleasure like experiences, like our dopamine hits, right? Our pleasure receptors are much far overused. Oh, they're much further overused than they have been in the past, right? And I think that that's something that we need to take a hard look at. Like, where is it in our lives that we can be a little bit more grateful, right? And when I think about my ancestors, that's a place that always makes me more grateful to know their sacrifice for me. And it puts me in a position where I really have to stand on business with myself, right? Big business with myself, 10 toes down. I have to say, you know what? I may not be feeling, inspired. I may not be feeling this way or the other, but like, I know that there was sacrifice for me to be here. And I look around and I think about how much I have that I don't appreciate right now, where I could really find more gratitude, for the things and the sacrifice that was made so that I could exist in the world as I do today, right? That always grounds me, that always brings me back. That is one of my greatest anchors. And then I've talked a little bit about the older versions of myself as well. She also, and the older version of yourself, they also had to sacrifice many things. Blood was spilled, tears were shed, versions of you have died so that you could be who you are today. And when you think about how, you know, there's an old version of yourself, I'm pretty sure you could think of right now, that used to pray for the things that you have today, whether that's just freedom, autonomy, agency over your own life because you're not a child anymore in a scary place. Think about that. There's so much gratitude there, my love. That is such a gift that we so often overlook. And I want to remind you, because I need to be reminded, right? I want to remind us together that we should be grateful. There's so much to be grateful for. And will there be time to grieve? Of course. Will there be time to really, get serious and hyper focus and really lock in? Of course. But two things can be true at once, right? We shouldn't be so hyper focused, so locked in, so burdened by life that we don't look around and have appreciation or gratitude for the things that are already around us, you know? So I really needed to draw on my anchors today because I could feel myself floating into orbit, and I need to be grounded sometimes, Not only do I not tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear, I also tell myself. I got to get on me sometimes too, and today was one of those days. So, with that being said, just don't forget, that there are old versions of yourself that are so proud of who you are, that there are ancestors of your past, right? That there are people from your lineage, there are elders here currently in your present who are so proud, have done so much, have sacrificed so much for you to have the things that you have today. And let's just look around and try and find in this moment right now together one thing to be grateful for, right? Life is short, my love, you know, and there's always a bright side. There's always a silver lining. You just have to find it. Sometimes it's a little harder than others, but you can find it. I believe in you. Okay. And now is the time when I hate to do it to you, but I'm going to go now. Don't worry, my love. I will always be back for you. I love you very, very much. The world would be much, much less without you in it. And we'll talk soon. Bye.